So whether you did it accidentally or intentionally, that feeling of guilt comes to nag you when you do something wrong. So welcome back to our series on emotional mastery. Today is day number 8 and we are talking about the emotion called guilt. If you're new here, my name is Genese Smith and I'm a certified dream builder and transformational life coach, and I love speaking hope into people's lives. And I'm also very passionate about helping individuals step out in confidence, which may be absent or it may seem absent at times when we need it most, especially after a very difficult time in life. And we all experience those moments one time or the other. And the worst thing is that in the midst of this crisis situation, there comes this inner critique and accusation, and then these guilty feelings hit us. And sometimes we ask the question, how guilty can I be? And we actually hear the answer come back at us, very guilty. Guilt. How guilty can I be? So whether you did something wrong or not, guilt can become a force to be reckoned with in the world of emotions. I'm telling you that guilt bogs you down in the past, holding you where you experience your worst moments. You want to know what guilt is? Guilt runs you in circles, thinking you've done something you should not have. And this emotion settles in and tells you that you've somehow caused harm to someone. I'm going to give you some situation that guilt would manifest as a result of. 1, you did something you shouldn't have. And then you didn't do something you should have. And then you will get the thought you did something you shouldn't have. Or could be you didn't do enough to change a situation that needed changing. And one of the hard blow situation is when you feel guilty because you have more than you should have. Does any of those ring a bell to you? Can you relate? Well, I could definitely relate to a few of them. Type in the comments below. I'd like to know. Let me know which one of them you could relate to. Was it that you did something you shouldn't have? Or was it you didn't do something you should have? What about just getting the thought that you did something you shouldn't have? You see how guilt runs you in circles? Sometimes we don't notice these things until we start evaluating them deep to the core. So now that we realize that guilt can run us in circles, let's look at how guilt holds us back. Guilt can very easily stall you. After all, if you've already failed and hurt someone or something else, why would you risk doing the same thing again? But guilt gets at you in other ways too. Physically, guilt hits at you in a way that just tires you out. You know what I mean? Between the inability to sleep at night and a severe loss of appetite, it's no wonder you feel draggy and without energy. Guilt can also give you a sick feeling in the pit of your stomach, or make you feel really jittery or full of nervous energy, especially if you're confronted and you can see that object of your guilt right in front of your eyes. Emotionally, is it any wonder guilt leads to problems with anxiety and depression? Worst, over time, guilt can develop into obsessive compulsive disorder. Guilt also muddles your thinking and encourages you to relive the same thought over and over again. Socially, guilt might distance you from others or put you on the path to overcompensate for your guilt, often to your detriment. Beware of this desire for a formal release from guilt, because this can lead you to allow people to walk all over you because you deserve it. At work, guilt can lead you to say yes to absolutely everything, even when you don't have the time or ability to work on more work. Sounds familiar? And in your relationships, guilt can also be very harmful, inviting the other person to take unfair advantage of you. And you know what that leads to? It leads to an imbalance that suddenly changes direction and turns the relationship into unhealthy directions. Wow, that's heavy stuff. Are you still here? Before we get into the steps of dealing with guilt, I wanted to remind you just to check the description below on the free resource and check that link for your 31 strategies to strengthen your self-confidence. You're going to need that. Okay, so what are the 3 steps we can take to deal with guilt? Ready? First step, recognize why you feel guilty. So, what happened? Did you mess up, or are you taking on guilt which isn't yours to take? And once you do an honest assessment, that will show you where you need to go next. Take your time. Next, create positive actions. If you genuinely were at fault in some way, it might be time to apologize if you haven't already. There's no need to degrade yourself. An honest and heartfelt "I'm sorry" will do. Even though it might feel like words can't fix the situation, the intention is what's important. If you have already apologized and you weren't at fault, it's time to move on. So let's move to step 3. And what does step 3 says? Move on. Getting on with your life can feel like the hardest thing in the world. Take things one day or even 1 hour at a time if you need to. While you might still feel the guilt, this will fade over time, especially as you become more engaged with the world around you, right? I'm telling you've got this. I'm telling you this. It may seem hard at first, but don't go down without a fight. I have heard that guilt is totally useless. Or I should say it's a totally useless emotion. It never makes anyone feel better, nor does it change a situation. And if you like that statement, I can't take credit for it. Louise Hay was the person who actually made that statement. So if you have feelings of guilt, I hope those steps were helpful for you. And if you love these videos and would like to follow in the series, remember to like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one as we wrap up our series on emotional mastery. Thanks again for joining, and I'll see you next time.